Hi guys, welcome back to the Cloud Homestead. Hopefully you just watched how to tell if your eggs are fertile or if they are unfertile in the previous clip. So now I'm going to go ahead and tell you. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel. That way you get notifications for next time. Thanks for hanging out with us. How to set your eggs for incubation. We are incubating duck eggs, although the fertility test it works for chicken eggs as well. So I just want to say that if you want extensive information, this book has everything that you need. This is where I get most of my information, and the rest is just not really trial and error, but it's just learning like what works best for us and what we have found best success with. Like, we've never had a bad hatch, but we've had better hatches, if that makes sense. So those are the practices that we stick with. So first things first, our ducks don't always like to lay in the cleanest of places. Sometimes they like to lay in the mud. Sometimes they're still a little bit dirty. These are some eggs that I have that honestly I would hatch these. However, you can wash your duck eggs before you incubate them. They're a little more durable with water than chicken eggs are, so you can wash them. In fact, this book recommends washing them in antibacterial soap. So that is what I generally do. So I'm not incubating these exact eggs, but I did want to show you that you can still incubate dirty eggs. All right, so here I have the eggs that I have set aside to incubate. I have wiped these off. I didn't exactly like drown them in water, but I did wipe these off, so they're quite clean. These are just slightly off colored because that's just the color that duck lays. That's just her bloom. So anyways, there's that. This is our incubator. It's very similar to the incubators that I usually use for ducklings and duck egg hatching. What you will need, I highly recommend, because incubators, their settings are all slightly different and they read slightly different in their temperature and humidity. Get yourself some extra hygrometers so that you have something actually in there reading it. I think you can get a set of 4 of these for $10. So if you happen to lose them because they're small, you still have backups. Or if you have 4 incubators going, if you're batch hatching, then you have one for each. But anyways, this is what I do. And then I will usually like write a note on the top if the temperatures are or the humidity is reading differently, just so I kind of know for the future. But anyways, so I've got our incubator set up. I have the turner set in there. This one hatches 12 eggs. These spots are kind of small, so I would say this barely will hatch duck eggs. It'll be fine, but you definitely don't want to hatch like extra large eggs in here. Definitely not goose eggs. So this will be fine for chicken and duck eggs, and for a smaller batch, which is exactly what I need. All right, so one thing to keep in mind is that when you get your incubator, if this is your first time hatching anything, you will get some styrofoam that is sent with your incubator. Definitely keep it. If you're incubating in the warmer seasons, you might not need it. However, if your house fluctuates in temperature, it does come in very handy. I actually hatch in a little greenhouse to help manage the humidity. I'm going to go ahead and set the eggs, and then we're going to get the incubator turned on and set up. So I've just got 9 eggs here. All right, so now I've got my hygrometer and thermostat in there. So it tells the temperature right here. The percentage of humidity is right here. I've got this set up here, the one thing I do really like about this incubator, aside from the fact that it is one that you can see through, like the top is clear, is that this is an automatic humidity feature. So I don't have to keep adding water to try to get the exact humidity that it needs. I'll set the temperature and the humidity, and then I just have to make sure that this doesn't get low. And when it does, I just refill it. All right. Whenever you plug them in, they usually do kind of like a test spin. This is a good time to just double check and make sure that they do have enough room and that they're not too crowded. Oop, yep, see, that one might need to get moved. Oh no. All right, so I will just keep an eye on this for, I mean, obviously for the 4 weeks that these incubate. I guess that's important to tell you guys. So these incubate out for 28 days. It is about 8:30 on a Sunday night. So I'm going to count tomorrow as day 1, and we're going to go by that timeline. Usually I would set these in the morning, but that just did not happen today, and that's fine. So the temperature that this needs to start off at is 99 degrees. I believe it is 99.2 to 99.5, which is pretty specific. So I will go ahead and set all of that up. You'll just need to read the directions on yours. You'll just need to read the directions on yours to set it up properly. And it needs to be 99.2 to 99.5 degrees. Also, make sure, like I said, that you're checking the hygrometer to make sure that that's actually accurate, because this might read differently, but I trust the hygrometer, the independent hygrometer, much better, much more. And then the humidity needs to be set to about 55 to 60 degrees. So, or percent, sorry, percent. And so it starts off that way. And then as we go through the incubation period, both of those numbers are going to change. And there's actually, the thing about duck eggs is that if you want a good hatch rate and some hardy ducklings, then you need to be a little bit more hands-on than you would be with chicks. I noticed that there was one batch that I was very diligent on being hands-on, doing exactly what I needed to do. I actually had 100% hatch rate in that one. And then my next batch, I slacked on. I was just like, well, this might not be needed. Not everybody does this. And I think I still had a 70% hatch, which isn't terrible, but I got to be honest, I usually end up with like 85 to 90% hatches. So it was not good enough for my standards. So we are going to be doing the hands-on version of this. That is another good reason why it's nice to do smaller batches with these, and also brooding smaller batches of ducklings is quite handy. So anyways, we've got this set up. I'm going to set up the temperature and the humidity, and then we'll take you along as the incubation period goes. But for the first week, this is where we're at. We just leave it and we just let it turn about once an hour, and we just let it set, double checking the humidity and the temperature.